joining us right now, as he does so often at Tuesday at this time, when we're lucky.
Well, it's always a good day.
The one and only Larry Kudlow from CNBC and right here on WMAL, of course, Larry Kudlow Show. Hey, Larry, how are you?
Thank you, gentlemen. Fine, thank you.
Well, we had so much to talk to you about last week. We had the dismal GDP numbers for the first quarter. We had the astonishing jobs report that so many people had different takes on. But we couldn't talk to you because you were witnessing history. And I want to start there. Talk to me about what it was like to be at the Vatican for the canonization of two new saints.
Well, it was a pretty amazing thing for me. I'm a Catholic convert, 17 years now, and to have sainthood for two dead popes and to see two alive popes and to watch the ceremony. We went with a group of people led by Chris Ruddy of Newsmax, and we had great seats, and the whole thing was kind of beautiful and overwhelming at the same time. And I'll just say quickly that for me personally, taking communion at the Mass was the most extraordinary part of it. There were about 800 priests giving communion to close to 1 million people, and they did it rapidly, and they just did it. And by the way, they put the wafer right on your tongue. We're accustomed to just holding out our hands. They did it the old-fashioned way, and you turned around and looked back and see the throngs of people, and people were holding these yellow and white umbrellas to keep the priests from the weather. There was some intermittent rain, and you could just see these umbrellas spread all across St. Peter's Square and spilling over into the Roman streets outside the square.
Wow!
And it just had a huge impact on me, and emotionally and spiritually. And
well, I can tell you're sort of emotional about it.
I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Did you take pictures of all that? Do you have them up? Did you load them up somewhere?
Yeah, we did. We did take a bunch of pics, and I don't think there'll ever be anything like that again, but I know in my lifetime there'll never be anything like that again, and to be able to share in that was an extraordinary experience for me. Extraordinary.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, I'd love to see the pictures. I'm going to take a look at them.
Yeah.
Listen, we do have some economic news that we'd like to talk to, but I'd like to start with some political news. There is a new Pew poll out which says that, the bottom line is that the GOP, in their opinion, is in the best position politically that it has been in some 2 decades.
Right.
And they go on to give you a lot of chapter and verse about where the American electorate is. But 2-1, they say, the American electorate wants somebody different to be president who will pursue different policies than those being pursued by the Obama administration. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it is an important poll. It's a devastating poll for Democrats, a good poll for Republicans, of course. These are for registered voters, which generally means that GOP will be underrepresented by, 4 to 6 percentage points, registered voters. And this is going to be a turnout election, and the GOP is going to have much more intensity in the midterm turnout. So that's very important. What's happening here is the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, is now slumping back down in the polls, including this poll. And the other thing that caught my eye is that people want a different economic policy. By 43 to 39, the Americans say, following the economic policies of Republican congressional leaders, will do more to strengthen the economy over the next few years than following the policies of the Obama administration. Again, that's just registered voters. That's not most likely to vote. So I would tack on another at least 4 or 5 percentage points. And that tells me that the GOP is in a commanding position right now, a commanding position. And look, you had a strong non-farm payrolls number on Friday, no question about it. I take great exception with some of my conservative colleagues who say that was a fluky number. It was not. It was not. 288,000 is 288,000, period. End of sentence. Deal with it. However, underneath the hood, what you still see is that the labor force participation rate and the employment to population rate is rock bottom. And you also see no gains in wages. And these are the things that really affect people. It tells you how many people are out of work would rather not be, but are, and it tells you that those that are working are getting the lowest wage increases in decades. I find this to be devastating. So my take, the GOP job here is to make sure in the next 4 or 5 months that they use this advantage and have a pro-growth economic policy. I mean pro-growth, whether it's Keystone, whether it's energy, whether it's lower tax rates, particularly the corporate tax. All these things have got to be in the message. And I say that because I've been in and out of this game a long time, and I don't want them to squander everything on congressional investigations, which are important. Don't get me wrong, Benghazi and the IRS, but I don't think those are going to be key voting issues. What's going to be key is the economy. Can the GOP do it better? Hire more people with more take-home pay. Take-home pay is the absolute key. And, of course, keep the drumbeat up on Obamacare.
Hey, Larry Kudlow, one of the reasons why I like listening to the Larry Kudlow Show on WMAL at 7 p.m. on Saturdays is that you don't just talk about politics and the economy. You talk about so many things and how politics intersects with things in our culture. And something happened in your backyard there over the weekend. I'd love to get your response on it. At Rutgers University, Condi Rice, the students protested and bullied her out. She showed great dignity in stepping down. But what do you think of what that says about Rutgers and also, frankly, your governor, Chris Christie, who didn't say anything about that? I thought he would have said something on behalf of Condi Rice.
So did I, and I wish he had. I wish he had spoken out very strongly. Look, Condi Rice is a brilliant woman who served her country well. You may agree or disagree with the foreign policy of the Bush administration, but this is a brilliant woman who obviously deserves to be heard. And I think it speaks volumes about the degradation of free speech at a place like Rutgers, which is a pretty big state university and which has had a lot of problems down through recent years. I think it's a pretty disgusting act. I've given a couple of commencement speeches myself. Let's see, last year I spoke at the University of Rochester in upstate New York. A year or two before that, I got an honorary honorary law doctorate from Monmouth University. It's just inconceivable that they will not allow free speech. Inconceivable to me. And, here's this African-American woman who herself is a pathbreaker just on her race and character alone, and they won't give her the chance to put forward her views. And, yes, I agree with you also. Governor Christie should have stepped up to the plate and just slammed his state university.
It was a great opportunity that he missed. Thanks so much, Larry Kudlow. Always good to have you. CNBC senior contributor.
Thanks.